Welcome to another edition of the MTD Podcast. Today we bring it to you from Sheffield at the headquarters of Ward Hi-Tech. I've got two colleagues with me joining me on today's show. One is Lyndsey from MTD CNC, and the second is Julian Frankland, an area sales manager for Ward Hi-Tech. So firstly, welcome to the show, both of you.
Thank you very much, Paul.
Thank you very much, Paul.
Julian, let's start with yourself. We normally do a little bit of a synopsis of the individual, a bit of a character profile, so people listening can build a picture of you if they don't know you. Tell us a little bit about your history within the industry and how long you've been at Ward Hi-Tech.
Oh, golly. I've been at Ward Hi-Tech now for just 12 months. Just 12 months now, but I've been around, for some people might say, far too long. I've been in this business for over 30 years now. And to be honest, admit, for the majority of the time, I've really enjoyed it. I enjoy meeting people. I like machine tools, and it's just generally the meeting people I really like.
It's quite interesting because when we asked you what your title was, you actually said, well, maybe a machine tool guru, you know?
Yes, well, as I said at the time, I think pretentiousness was my middle name. I'd like to think that I can pass on some of the knowledge and experience I've gained over the last goodness knows how long to whoever, because if someone said to me, well, I'm thinking about buying one of these, what do you think? I'd like to think I give them an honest and truthful answer, and if it was no, then don't do it. Don't do it will be the first thing I said.
And I think having known you from a previous company as well to here, that does come across quite genuinely. And Lyndsey and myself have been interviewing you today on the machines, and I think we both agree that you come across as quite a charismatic, trustworthy gentleman. So that's
Thank you.
Probably a good place to start. Now, coming up in today's podcast, we're gonna pick out three of the brands that you supply, which we've spoken about today: the Dali, the Hwachon, and the SFM. We're going to talk about them all individually, briefly, talk about some of the reasons why you believe people should consider them strongly in their purchasing decisions. And then we're going to finish off talking about the finance offering and the support that the company offers. So let's start with the Dali. Let's start with you, Lyndsey, because you spoke to Julian today about the Dali. What did you pick up from his comments about that brand?
I kind of picked up that you were saying that these are robust machines, mainly 3-axis, but they go up to 4+1 machines. And they're good, compact, solid machines if anyone wants confidence in a workhorse of a vertical machining centre.
Yeah,
does that show I was listening?
That you were listening. That is it. Yeah, I mean, there are, and I probably said it at the time. If I put in VMC into a search engine, I wish I'd never bothered because it would never stop. Because there are hundreds and hundreds of these things about. And there are probably machines you've never even heard of, which are available somewhere through somebody. What you really, I think, should be looking for is somebody who's selling you a machine which is proven. It does the job it's supposed to do. The company supplying the machine are going to look after you. And there are spares and support and service available. But the machine, it shouldn't have to be complicated. A 3-axis machining centre is, at the end of the day, it's a 3-axis machining centre. You should be looking for something that isn't going to cause you problems, because that's the last thing you want. You want something that you can put in and it's going to run and you can forget about it. And the next time you think about it, as well, it needs a service.
Yeah. And I mean, when you look around your showroom here, there's quite a lot of machines in stock, and that's not just because you're not selling them, it's because it's the way Ward Hi-Tech operates.
It's the philosophy of the company.
To move them quickly, which you do tend to do. There is quite a few Dalis here, and we've looked at them today. We've looked at the MCV 1800, I believe it is, with a BBT 50 massive box guideway construction machine.
That's right.
Weighs about 15 or even 18 tons, I can't remember exactly.
Yeah, that's it.
Right the way down to the smaller 860s and the 5-axis machine. There's some quite unique features, and I do appreciate your sentiment, Julian, about the fact it's about reliability, it's about, buying something that's fit for purpose. But there's a couple of points on the machines that I'd point out. One of which on the 5-axis is they have you have like this Fanuc control thing on the spindle motor, which means you can get maximum torque at 1500 RPM, as well as 15,000 RPM at the top end. These are quite some things when you start looking in detail at machines, aren't they?
Yes, they are, and it's something that perhaps more for the subcontract market is something that people should be looking at and considering more, because you're looking at a machine. It's not can do anything and everything. But you're looking for versatility. And if a machine's versatile, then it means that you've got more opportunities to pitch for work and perhaps gain contracts by virtue of the fact you've got a machine that you feel comfortable with, reliable, is going to be reliable enough, and you're not going to be pushing it. Now, I think that's a good thing.
And the other point I was listening to yourself or one of your colleagues was about is how some of the Fanuc controls on these machines are now, even the basic entry-level Fanuc controls offer some quite sophisticated functionality, which makes programming very easy and very affordable as well.
Well, it does. In addition to all the features you would expect from a modern control system, such as Ethernet connection, USB connection, connectivity, flash card drives and all this, you've got manual guide eye from all the Fanuc control systems. A manual guide eye means you can program on the machine. You can program off the machine using exactly the same facility as on your PC. Or alternative, you can use a system such as SolidWorks, for example, where you can actually fully program offline, incorporating DXF or AutoCAD drawings straight into the system, and then you can send the program up the Ethernet connection to the machine. There's a variety of different ways of doing things now.
And it's a shame people can't see with the podcast, but there's plenty of videos on the MTD CNC channel of the amount of machines that are here at Ward High Tech. Lyndsey, you've been here a few times recently, and it is quite eye-opening to see the amount of machines that are moving through here. You look at the Dali models, and they're quite well finished. As we've mentioned about the construction, they're good build quality. But the proof is in what the customer thinks, isn't it? And there was one thing Julian mentioned to you today, which you've not stopped talking about.
Well, no, I was actually going to bring that up because, we go out on the road to a lot of case studies. We go and see customers, and people buy off people.
Yes.
That's what we've been talking about. But people also buy when they see other people. And we're a bit like sheep, aren't we? We like to follow. And if they see someone else having success with something, they want a bit of it too. And so the first thing that I asked you is, have you got any customer reviews? Like, Dali machines, maybe not everybody knows about them. Do enough people know about them? And what reviews have you got from customers?
Well, you often think, it's a funny thing, I thought about it afterwards. I thought, well, sometimes, is it because people don't want everybody to know? Yeah. I've got so many machines, but I don't want everybody to know about it because I'm successful in what I have. There is one particular company we have an excellent relationship with up in the northwest of England. We've got over 20 machines.
Dali machines.
Dali machines. And there are other customers, even in the local area, who've got 6, 7, 8 machines as well. We were talking about it over lunch, and these people keep on buying these machines because they're happy with them. And they're all different sizes. They're not all the same. The various later models, what have you, but they are good.
I've got a little bit of a controversial question then for you. Then, do you feel like where you as Ward High Tech are based, are people more likely to buy off you locally, or do people buy up and down the country from you? And what are your thoughts on location for a machine tool supplier? Because, of course, it adds to the service and support too, being more local.
I've worked for companies, over the period of time I've been in machine tools. I started off in Holmfirth in Huddersfield. I went down to Kingston upon Thames. I went down to Wembley, then back up to the Midlands. I don't know, I feel comfortable working in the north, but, one of our really good customer of Ward High Tech is based in Poole, in Dorset.
I know them, actually. I think I've been there.
AEC.
Yes.
A very, very good customer, but quite a number of machines. I'll be perfectly frank, I can't remember exactly which ones or how many, but quite a number of machines have been bought by AEC. and they couldn't be, well, they're nearer France than here, aren't they? You know?
They always buy them in the summer, though, don't they? Because Alan likes to go.
Well, Alan likes to go down to Bournemouth, yeah. It has been said, yes.
Let's move
by
on.
most of us, actually. Yeah.
I mean, it's reassuring to hear your comments on the Dali range, and I do encourage people to come here to look at these machines, because it is quite something here to see the different models that are available. Let's move on to Hwachon, because this was the second machine that we've done some interviews on today. And again, really, the diversity is incredible. Everything from the small Q-Techs here, right the way up to the big 850 at the bottom there. I mean, that's quite a range, Julian.
And everything in between. And I think that's, again, the Hwachon philosophy seems to be, well, we'll make one machine, and then we'll make all the various variations of that one machine. So we'll have it with one turret, we'll have it with half indexing, we'll have it with a Y-axis, we'll have it with a subspindle, and you'll see that throughout the range that's available.
But how do you compete in this area? I mean, let's be realistic here. We're looking at machines here, Julian, that there is, you mentioned about tapping into Google a VMC. What about if you tap in 8-inch chuck turning centre? I mean, you have equally the same problem, don't you? Or even worse.
At the end of the day, there's always going to be somebody somewhere cheaper than you are. I personally have my philosophy now is, and I sort of tell anybody who's prepared to listen until they get fed up of me, that, if you're buying a 2-axis lathe, why would you spend a lot of money on this and the other? I think what you should be looking at on that kind of machine is who's going to be there for you, who's going to look after you, who's going to be there when things go wrong at 5 o'clock on a Friday night. Who's going to be there? Is there somebody going to be there who's going to pick up a phone? And I think there is.
And are you suggesting then the capabilities at that level are all very similar across different brands?
Honestly, I don't believe there's any really bad machines anymore. 30 years ago was a different story.
It's like cars, really. When we talk about cars, they've changed.
Yeah.
Lots of brands, they had bad reputations, but now we've all got to hit a certain standard and specification. Some will be more robust than others, and you've kind of just got to sell. They're classed as solid machines. So what you're telling me is they do what they need to, but we're doing the extra bit. Is that what you're saying?
Well, it's a bit like you talk about cars, a bit like the Skoda. There was a guy that basically, they used to say about Skoda cars. Well, he drove off the edge of a cliff on this Skoda, landed at the bottom, it was about a 200-foot drop, and he got out and he walked away. I mean, that wouldn't have happened years ago, but he just didn't want to be seen dead in a Skoda.
Oh, you were so wrong.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that either. Yeah. I should have been.
Yeah, come on, it's Paul's. Have you ever heard of the Fiat, fix it again, Tony, and fix it again tomorrow? But they've changed their brand, and, times have changed.
Things have changed. Things have become more reliable. But the thing is, and this is the thing about Hwachon, okay, you buy a 2-axis lathe, you buy a 200, or even a 2/3, say 450 size machine, and you buy a 2-axis lathe. But at some point, you may want to think, well, actually, I need more. I need driven tools. I need the C-axis, I need a Y-axis, I need perhaps like a subspindle. The thing is, you can get all those things on the exact same model that you've got used to running on a 2-axis lathe. Yeah, it's a nice thing to be able to offer.
I can imagine you've got a lot of tools in your box, and when you see something like the 850, a big 5 metre turning length.
A wow machine.
It's
really is.
Huge machine. And to have it here readily available, 24-inch or 32-inch chuck, up to 380 mil bore capacity if you need it. I think it is, isn't it, as an option? Or
It's an incredible, that really is an incredible machine. I can't even begin to imagine what that machine is like with a double turret coming straight at you at 20 metres a minute with a big metre-long boring bar stuck out the end of it. It's flipping heck.
You'd rather sell them than use them.
Exactly. But what can that machine do? That machine will do a fabulous job. It really is. It's a monster of a machine.
The largest privately owned machine tool manufacturer in Korea, proud of their history with their own foundry, must be pumping out hundreds or thousands of machines a year,
yes.
which supports, I suppose, the reason to want to be able to supply them here from Ward High Tech.
Yeah, the thing, Hwachon is there's more to Hwachon than meets the eye. Not many people know this, but so many Korean machines come in now with C-home chucks. Hwachon owns Seom Chucks. It's a Hwachon company. And, you know, not many people know that. But, you know, it's a company that makes quite a lot of other equipment.
And they're quite competitively priced as well, aren't they? This is one of the things I've always found. We'll come on to the financing in a minute. Again, at this point, I would encourage you to visit our YouTube channel and watch some of the videos that we've done today on the Hwachon machines, everything from the 850 right down to the smaller machines. We're always quite limited for time on these things, Julian, so we're going to move on to the final brand that we're going to talk about, although there are other brands that you do supply here at Ward High Tech. The SFM. This can be best described as a flatbed, maybe oil country machines. How do you best describe them?
Generally speaking, I would describe it as an oil country type machine, mainly because you can have a larger spindle bore, which will accommodate pipe type work. People like that type of machine, particularly in the oil and gas sector. And so the fact that it's got that capability, it's got the double chuck capability, so you have a chuck mounted on the front of the spindle of the headstock and on the back of the headstock, so you can grip a pipe properly and then machine it. That is seen as a major benefit. And the longer beds, of course, the bigger swings, the fact that you've got large boring bar attachments and large boring capability on that type of machine, it makes it a very impressive machine all round.
Do you have a bit of a crossover with the SFM and the Hwachon? Because you've got some big machines there. Are they competing or not?
It's all down to the application, really, Lyndsey.
Yeah.
I think certainly where the SFM comes into its own is certainly when it starts looking at boring, because the ability to put a 150 millimetre diameter boring bar on a machine up to a metre, even longer, is something you wouldn't be able to do, generally speaking, on a slant bed.
I think when you look at these flatbed machines at the SFMs, I remember coming here about 3 months ago, in fact, during the last lockdown, and there was a demonstration being done on the machine for a customer where they were trying to create a surface finish like couldn't be achieved anywhere else. And you achieved it, some terrific RA value. Yes. I can't remember, I couldn't put a figure on it, but how it was achieved was down to the stability of the machine, the tooling, the method and the strategy of machining, which was prime turning, wasn't it? Yes. You were turning backwards using the Sandvik solution.
That's right.
But what was achieved on the surface finish was well beyond what another manufacturer could produce on a similar application. And then you think, well, how do you get to that? Well, that comes from a machine that has very little vibration, is structured correctly. So that's a good illustration of how these machines are portrayed, isn't it?
Absolutely right, yeah. I mean, that was a very, very good application for that type of machine. Could you do it on a slant bed? Well, maybe, but, you'd be looking at various other different ways of actually supporting the work. And the way that we actually did it was to take what was being done on a manual machine at the customer's premises and translating it into how would we do it on this machine then. And the fact was that machine had a 10-inch spindle bore, it had a double chuck arrangement. So effectively we pushed most of the components, and it was 4 meters long, we pushed 2 meters up the spout of the machine, up the headstock. So you only had 2 meters actually protruding from the headstock. You could turn 2 meters, then you turned it round, you turned the other 2 meters from the other end, and then you could once you got all the meat off it effectively, you could actually finish it. And it worked brilliantly.
What's the biggest the SFM go to, Julian? The biggest to the smallest, just so people can get a
The
picture
biggest is that you can get up to 8 meters between centers. The biggest chuck you can get on there is about 40 inches.
Okay.
But you can swing bigger, but you're looking at how much you can swing over the cross slide.
Yeah.
Because that's going to be a limiting factor.
Seen the machines as well at exhibitions, and again, you carry them from stock here, which is
we do
unusual.
Try, yeah. Well, yes, we do try, yeah.
I bet if you get into what we call a flatbed fight, if there is such a term, you're probably one of the only ones that would have one with a 5-6 meter between centres, aren't you?
Well, yes, that may well be the case, yeah.
Flatbed fight.
A flatbed fight, yeah. The mind boggles, really, doesn't it? Yeah.
Talking about fighting and getting close to one another, I know that Paul wanted to move on to talking about financing and everything, and you during our interviews earlier, we're talking about wrapping your arms around a customer, and I said you can't do it during this current climate.
No,
but you did touch on it earlier, and you said about how you look after your customer, and it's more to just buying a machine. It's about the background and the service.
Yes.
Putting your arms around the customer. And what are you doing here? And then let's talk about the finance and how you're making the machines more accessible to somebody.
Well, the thing is, more and more, over the last 20 years, engineering companies have been losing people. They've been losing skills. Skills are on the shop floor are falling way, way behind now because apprentices weren't being taken on for a long time. And not only that, but the guys who were on the shop wouldn't go into the production engineering departments. Well, they're just not there anymore. So we believe that people are looking for a little bit more these days. It isn't a case I just want to buy a machine and I can do with it as I will. Well, what am I going to do on it? And they're looking for support, help with regard to who's going to help me with the tooling. I need to know what tooling I'm going to use. You mentioned earlier about the shaft turning with trying to achieve a finish. That's something that we worked extensively with the tooling supplier and the customer with. We look at various fixture design. We look at supporting the customer in any way we possibly can. And I think that's where people start feeling comfortable with the fact that if I go to Ward High Tech, I'm going to be looked after. And that makes people want to go with you.
Okay, so you've got the support. What about the funding? Let's conclude on this one.
Again, the thing is, one size I don't think fits all. Well, we don't believe it does. But the thing is, we have various different options available to us. We have a managing director who can get ideas. Well, let's listen to the guy, listen to the person who's actually wanting to buy the machine. What's he looking for? What does he really need? What will help him? If we can find that out, then we can tailor something to suit him. And there are various different things available at the moment, as you're probably well aware. The CBILS, the coronavirus
intervention loan
well done.
scheme.
You lost me from it. But there's that we have various different offers available throughout the year. Buy now, pay possibly in 6 months' time. There are various different things, but we can tailor things to suit him because sometimes people are a little bit, obviously now, confidence is lacking from a lot of people. We had our confidence package. We could do things at the front end. Well, let's delay the payments on the front end. We can do all sorts of things, but it's only by talking to our customers and making sure that they trust us. And it's a two-way street then. We can work with them.
And I think the fact that, you've got ownership over a lot of the equipment here and you've not got, somebody sitting above you, breathing down your neck, in terms of repayments from your own side, the fact that a lot of this equipment here is your own, it means you can be as flexible as you choose to at whichever point you need to be.
Something about this company is the owner of the company is a salesman. He's an out-and-out salesman, and he's a very, very good salesman. He's been at it for a lot, even longer than I have, which is quite something. But by virtue of that, he knows what people, he knows how to approach things, and he's flexible. And I think that's a very, very positive thing.
Yeah, and I think one thing we've learnt in time is the selling and the support go hand in hand, and I think that's credit to the owner of the company and everybody that works with him. I think what we'll probably do is we'll wrap this podcast up at this stage, Julian. I know you've got to go down the Skoda showroom to have a look at your next car. Don't press the button on the microphone yet, because we're not quite finished. It's been really good to be here today and look at the machines and learn more about the machines and about yourself, and hopefully people that are listening to this podcast that want to see more, you can on our YouTube channel and on mtdcnc.com. I'd like to thank you both for joining us today. Thank you, Julian. Thank you, Lyndsey. That's it for this week's podcast.
Thank you. It's been a real pleasure to meet both of you again. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the MTD Podcast. If you found value in this episode, please subscribe and leave a rating and review. Find more episodes on mtdcnc.com.